All right, folks, welcome back. We had a power failure, a massive power failure in our control room. Shut everything down, switcher, audio, our feed going out. And so that's why we had to reboot the entire system, and we are back. So, hey, it's technology. It happens. Don't worry. You already know. I've already fired off an email to our engineers to find out what system do we need, what is it going to cost to actually install a backup power source in there, so that way if that happens again, then it simply just flips right over to our backup power source to allow us to stay back on the air. So that's what we're already working on. All right, let's go back to the story that I was talking about before we lost power, and that is a story out of Wichita, Kansas, where police officers and detention staff will not face charges after a teen dies in custody near Wichita, Kansas. In September, Cedric Lofton died at a hospital 2 days after the altercation at the Sedgwick County Juvenile Intake and Assessment Center. A December autopsy report contradicted an earlier preliminary finding that the teenager hadn't suffered life-threatening injuries. The autopsy ruled the death a homicide. Bennett says the state's stand your ground law prevents him from bringing any charges. Joining me now to discuss this is this decision by Sedgwick County DA Mark Bennett is Andrew Stroth, the Lofton family attorney and managing partner of Action Injury Law Firm, and Marquetta Atkins, the executive director for Progeny, an organization working to transform the juvenile justice system in Kansas, and also community activist Pastor Maurice Mo Evans, a powerful community church in Wichita, Kansas. Glad to have all three of you here. I need to understand here, and this is one of the issues we have, Andrew, with stand your ground. So the DA is saying he can't bring charges because of stand your ground?
Yeah, I will tell you, it's a stunning decision by a district attorney who has failed over the years to charge any law enforcement. And again, the theory of stand your ground does not fit this scenario. Cedric Lofton, 17-year-old teenager, 135 pounds, was unarmed, did not present a threat, and is put in the prone position and basically suffocated. They took his breath away and they killed him. And the district attorney is saying, stand your ground. It doesn't make any sense, is not based on the theory. It doesn't support the facts. And the family and Pastor Maurice Evans and others are asking for an independent special prosecutor to re-examine the objective evidence in this case.
Pastor, what is that process to get a special prosecutor? Must the DA recuse himself? Does it come from the governor? How does that work?
We're looking at every option. Apparently, the state of Kansas does not have the ability to, by means of law, or so we've been told, that there's no provision within the law to allow him to be replaced. But there's nothing that stops him from assigning one, from volunteering. Mark Bennett has said that it would make him look bad and that he would not necessarily be seen as competent, or that he would be seen as incompetent if he were to assign a special prosecutor. We're not concerned with that. His efforts so far have not been adequate, and so we're looking at other options for possibly, hopefully, Department of Justice or some other way that we can get a special prosecutor assigned to this case, have it reopened, and charges filed, rather than saying no one's accountable.
This is the kind of thing that we have seen, Marquetta, in so many other states that just makes no sense whatsoever. It is as if people have the absolute right to shoot to kill, and they have no consequences.
Absolutely. I think society and this country is teaching us our kids are expendable, and they're not. Cedric was a child. He was in a mental health crisis, and he deserved to get the help that he needed. He did not deserve to go to JIAC. He did not deserve to come out of there dead. And so we have to stop this trend of making this nation think that our kids are expendable, because they are not.
But I'm trying to understand how the stand your ground law applies. Where did this actually take place? Was it inside the facility?
It happened inside the facility. Yeah.
Yeah, it was earlier interaction with the Wichita Police Department, but he was actually suffocated and crushed inside the juvenile intake center. And you can see on the video the stress and pressure that was put on Cedric. And let's be clear, they put Cedric in the prone position, face down. And that is a dangerous position and against policy. And it was for approximately 20 minutes.
Okay, so
again,
how does, okay, so I'm just trying to okay, and this is what I'm trying to understand here. Okay, so these are, the individuals who did this, they work for the facility.
correct.
Okay. Which means that they have procedures.
That's right.
So he's face down.
Yes.
Are they saying that he was striking them, he was fighting them, he was beating them, he was biting them? What are they saying?
You know, Pastor Mo, why don't you respond to that? Because the DA's report, Mark Bennett's report, is so disturbing that you got a young man not posing a threat that they basically killed. So stand your ground makes no sense. And they interviewed the individuals at JIAC, and even their own interviews don't indicate a threat. But Pastor Mo, I defer to you.
Pastor, you there?
I am
Actually,
here.
we lost him.
I'm here.
Okay, Pastor, you back? Go ahead.
Yeah, the whole thing has been sophistry from the beginning. The reason why people are concerned in saying, this doesn't make any sense is because there have been lies and miscommunications from the beginning. What we know is that he was actually held down, he was handcuffed, he was shackled. There was a person at his feet, there was a person sitting on his back, there was a person holding each arm. And so what we know is that this happened for at least 45 minutes before they realized that he was unresponsive and unconscious. So none of this makes sense. I don't understand how 4 people have someone shackled, handcuffed, and they feel their life is in danger. Because that's a stand your ground, right? That your life is in danger and
Right.
that it's an imminent threat. Where does that come from?
I mean, that means that my life is in danger, that somebody has done something to put my life in danger. And so what I don't understand is how you can be in a facility a person can't get out of. You have complete control of that person's movements. 4 people are holding him down, and it's stand your ground?
They're holding a young person responsible for his murder. They're holding a 17-year-old child in a mental health crisis responsible for his own murder. And Glenna Martins, that runs the facility, in a press conference yesterday, said that the staff did procedure. And if that is procedure, they grossly need to change that procedure. And it does not fit stand your ground.
Question
Yeah.
here, that is, all right, is there any call for the Department of Justice come in, someone else, the state authorities to look into this? Anything?
So far, the only thing that the city has done is issued a task force to take a look at the policies from beginning to end that led to Cedric's murder. And I'm going to keep on using the word murder instead of death. But to me, that is not good enough. Somebody needs to be held accountable, specifically Mark Bennett, because he had the power to make this right. And the message that he's sending out is so critical, especially for young people who are already going through it, who are in mental health crisis. What is the message we're sending to these kids and their parents when they need help? Because who wants to call for help and risk their child being murdered and taken to the wrong facility instead of getting the help that they need because an officer feels threatened or because a staff that is supposed to be equipped to handle situations like this feels threatened? What is the message that we're sending to our young people?
And that's right. And Roland, this happened back in September. So initially, they didn't release any of the footage. They did let the family finally come in and see the footage. They didn't, at the initial press conference, as Pastor Mo knows, the district attorney and the sheriff talked about a kid on drugs, on K2, with a background. Well, thank God there was a medical examiner that gave an objective report that showed that these officials killed, suffocated, and took Cedric's breath away. So this doesn't stop here. The family is going to pursue all legal remedies. while the community and our team are going to work together to try to get a special prosecutor. I mean, you just have to look at the independent evidence. And Mark Bennett's has a track record of not holding people accountable. His 45-page report is nonsense. And we're going to move forward because the objective evidence supports that this kid was unjustifiably killed. Cedric Lofton should be here today, and he's not because of the actions of those actors at that juvenile detention facility.
That is absolutely a shame.
They need
Folks,
to be held accountable.
absolutely. Please keep us abreast of how this case moves forward.
Yeah, we
Will
need
do.
an external audit, and I want to put that out there. We need somebody outside of Wichita to come in and view what's happening here, because there is no way that this child should be murdered and his legacy be left in vain. And on top of that, we have to realize that these systems, these juvenile justice systems, are not working. We need to
They're
be
not.
proactive in how we're dealing with our young people, and we need to do preventative measures to keep our kids from being incarcerated and going in jail. These systems are not working.
Absolutely.
And that county task force is not adequate because those are all people who were a part of Mark Bennett's secret letter that he sent. Those were all people who have been a part of supposedly protecting our young people and thus far have not been able to do so. So we definitely need, as Marquita said, we need independent third-party oversight, and there has to be accountability. We can't say nobody's responsible for this child's death. As a community, we're not going to stand for that.
All right.
Right.
Folks, I certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Folks, let's go to Pennsylvania, where 3 Pennsylvania officers are charged with the fatal shooting of an 8-year-old girl at a football game. You might remember this story. Fonta Ability was shot in the crossfire of the officers and some teens. The bullets injured several others, including Fonta's sister. Officer Devon Smith, Sean Dolan, and Brian Devaney are charged with 1 count of voluntary manslaughter, 1 count of involuntary manslaughter, and 10 counts of reckless endangerment. The teenagers were charged with murder, but those charges were dropped when it was discovered that the bullet that killed Fonta came from an officer's weapon. Let's go back to our panel, Reese, Dr. Greg Carr, and Faraji Muhammad. Faraji, I want to start. Okay, don't have Faraji. Let me know when he's back. I want to go to you, Reese. I remember when this happened, and this sounds very similar to the story out of Los Angeles where the cops were going into, I think, a Burlington coat factory. A young girl was in the dressing room, and they fire at the guy, and then she's in the dressing room and ends up getting hit. You know, this is where officers have to use proper discretion when they're firing their weapons when there are other people who are around.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I understand that there was a gunfight. If I understand correctly, there was a gunfight that initiated the officers coming to the scene. However, it's not like you're just in the Guns of Navarone here having a shootout like you're in the Magnificent Seven. You are in an actual community that has children around and other people. And so they have a duty to protect the entire community and not just necessarily engage with the people who are firing off these rounds. So it's incredibly tragic. I'm glad to see that there's some accountability, but there just needs to be a sense of humanity and the people who are serving these communities and a duty of care that just isn't there. And we saw the same thing with the prior story too, about Cedric and just the lack of duty of care for a person who was going through a mental episode. I mean, the people weren't responding to a crime; they're responding to a situation where a teenager had an episode, and he ends up, not just dead, but in my opinion, brutally murdered. I mean, the length of time that he was in a position was longer than even what we saw with George Floyd. And so it's hard to say reform systems when we know that's not necessarily happening. And we also know that it's the lack of humanity, as Dr. Carl says, the statement, no humans involved, is what's really animating a lot of these folks in these cases.
This is, again, beyond sad, Greg, but this is also why, look, I get it when you're in those situations, but officers must take care and simply just can't be firing away and they have innocent bystanders. And here's the deal. Remember, they charged the teenagers for it. So clearly you have laws to, their errant gunfire kills this young girl. Now we know it's the cops. They should be charged.
They should. And as always, Roland, you are taking the moral position. And we are talking about a situation where there is no morality. Reese just said it. I mean, NHI, no humans involved. And that is a phrase that Sylvia Wynter used and talks about, the scholar Sylvia Wynter, but she took it literally from the LAPD, who used that phrase, NHI, to talk about when they would get calls in Black and brown communities in Los Angeles. Oh, what? Oh, NHI, no humans involved. And in both those cases, there were no human beings involved. That child, it's heartbreaking to see her there with that little crown and then the young man in the back and see these children. And then you realize that these killers, and that's what they are, they're killers, they're patter-rollers, they're hunters. Their first move, like they're in an episode of Chicago PD or Law and Order, is to empty their clip. There are no repercussions. And in the case, as Reese just said, of Kansas with Mark Bennett, that white nationalist who was just recently reelected, I think 2020 he was reelected, there are no repercussions. You can kill who you want. Now, the one thing that ties those two cases together is, the defense lawyer for Smith, Dolan, and Devaney is arguing that, this had to do with violent criminals. So they can't put it on the 18-year-old who they gave 32 to 64 months for his actions. They can't put it on the juvenile guy. And yeah, they shouldn't have been shooting. Of course they shouldn't have been shooting. But when there are no humans involved, the script is to try to find one of these non-humans to blame. And it worked in Kansas so far because they say that he continued to struggle and he resisted. So therefore, we're within the law to show restraint. The bottom line is this: they're going to keep killing us until we stop them. And the price has to be a life for a life. It does no good to march and say Black Lives Matter. You need to crucify the two United States senators from Kansas, Roger Marshall and Jerry Moran. They should be excoriated on the floor of the United States Senate. No matter what they're debating, someone should come in and say, you represent a lawless state where nobody's life matters. And until we start putting the kind of pressure on these white people in terms of a language they understand, they're going to kill us with impunity.
How about this story here? The Missouri man who spent 43 years in prison for a crime he did not commit is filing a lawsuit. Kevin Strickland and his lawyers say the company said state contracts for prisons denied him proper medical care, outside referrals, or treatments to his various ailments while incarcerated. The lack of medical treatment is why Strickland is confined to a wheelchair. He is requesting a jury trial and damages for his suffering. There needs to be more of these type of suits, because what we find, Faraji, that in some of these states, when someone has been wrongfully convicted, they don't even have the ability to actually get paid from the state.
No, not at all. Not at all. And I think that's the other part about this whole conversation. When we're looking at what just happened with little sister Fanta, and just keep talking about all of these cases. I mean, like it was just reported about a little less than an hour ago, Brother Roland, that those 3 officers in Sharon Hill were all fired from the department. But it still doesn't bring the type of justice that the family is seeking and that the community needs right now. When we look at these cases, people try to just dehumanize the fact that you lost a human being to something very senseless, to something that really could have been prevented. And I think that's one of the worst ways to transition from this space, from this world, is that you lost your life over something very senseless, especially when it comes to a child. So money is not enough. I mean, even if you say, okay, we're going to lock up the officers, but there's still some level of protection around them. It's not enough now. And I think we gotta raise our voices to say, it's not enough to just fire the officers.
Well, it's not enough. It's not enough. Look, it's not enough to fire officers, but also it's not enough to simply say to a brother who served 43 years in prison, hey, sorry. Again,
right.
The bottom line is, yes, money cannot bring back 43 years. Money cannot bring back a life. But the reality is, this is a capitalistic society. Everything is based upon money. Some folks do need to pay up when these sort of things happen. Folks, let's go to Georgia, where one of the men convicted of chasing and murdering Ahmaud Arbery wants a new trial. Travis McMichael is serving life in prison without parole. He believes he deserves a new trial because the state did not have enough evidence for the jury to reach a verdict beyond a reasonable doubt. Yes, they did. This is the standard retrial motion and must be submitted within 30 days of a verdict. His punk ass ain't going nowhere, y'all. So he can be sitting in prison. So I guarantee you, to say, oh, y'all don't have enough evidence. Yeah, trust me, we did. We had your dumb ass testifying and we had video. Oh, by the way, he ain't steal nothing. Guess what? Sit your white racist ass in prison for the rest of your life, and certainly hope Jamal and Pookie don't pay you a visit. All right, y'all. We
Pay
now
him a visit.
look, bottom line, that's the deal. We now know the cause of death of legendary actor Sidney Poitier. The 94-year-old died on January 6th at his home in Beverly Hills. Poitier's death certificate says he died of heart failure. Also listed as underlying causes were Alzheimer's, dementia, and prostate cancer. Of course, he was the first black man to win the Best Actor Oscar for his lead role in 1963's Lilies of the Field. Man, a sad story out of Georgia. A Talbot County probate magistrate judge, just 45 years old, was found dead in her home. Judge Cheryl Terry was found dead by her father on Wednesday in the home they shared. She was elected, folks, just in 2020 and followed in the footsteps of her father and predecessor, former Judge John Terry. She was the first female probate judge in Talbot County. The cause of death hasn't been determined. Authorities say there was no foul play evident. Again, she was 45 years old and was very much a prominent member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And speaking of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, sad news for their members all across the world. Their recently installed 27th National President, Cheryl Hickman, passed away this morning. Again, folks, she assumed the position in November of this year. She had served the organization in a variety of capacities, including serving as National Vice President, National Secretary, Eastern Regional Director, South Atlantic Regional Representative. The sorority posted this statement on their Facebook page and sent it out to all of their members. It is with great sorrow that Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated shares the passing of our beloved National President and Chair of the National Board of Directors, Cheryl A. Hickman. President Hickman transitioned peacefully on January 20th, 2022 after recent illness. President Hickman was a devoted member of Delta Sigma Theta since 1982 and served in various capacities at the chapter, regional, and national levels before being elected national president. She's remembered not only for her role as a leader, but for being a colleague, friend, and most of all, sister. The entire sisterhood of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated mourns the loss of President Hickman. During this difficult time, we ask that you respect her family's privacy and keep them in your prayers. All right, folks, got to go to break. We come back. I'm going to share with you some information about a scholarship that I have announcing with McDonald's, honoring Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. And you're going to get the first look of my book, White Fear, that is dropping in September of this year. We'll do that next, right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. All right, folks, so y'all see that I'm rocking the Tennessee State University shirt. You see, of course, this is our HBCU segment. So here's the deal. Look, I was at Texas A&M University. I'm a graduate. My brother is, so is my sister. But we understand the importance of HBCUs. And so there are many African Americans who support HBCUs who didn't even go to them. We did remember the project that we did in We aired it in December. We shot it in November in Houston with McDonald's tied to their gospel tour. So we were in Houston. If you want to see those interviews, go to the Black Star Network app or our YouTube channel. All the interviews are on there. There was amazing interviews. And so I was talking with the folks at McDonald's, and we were discussing, they were talking about, support of HBCUs, and they said, hey, we want to do something with you, Roland. I said, okay, great. And they said, this is the 115th anniversary of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, with December 4th, founded December 4th, 1906. And they said, we want to do something to honor them. And I said, well, why don't we do this here? So why don't we do something unique? Let's honor our 7 jewels, the 7 founders of Alpha Phi Alpha. And let's give away scholarships. So they wanted to give away robust scholarships. So I said, hey, let's do 7. And they said that, I said, but I don't want to make it just for alphas. I said, and here's why. Because I wanted us to be able to get a sense of, again, what the need is. And let me explain that. One of the biggest issues, and Greg can attest to this very much so, one of the greatest issues for college students, but especially HBCU students, is not them going to college. Is them being able to stay there. Because typically most universities, especially HBCUs, there's a dramatic drop-off from when students are freshmen and sophomores and when they become juniors and seniors because they don't have the money to stay. So here's what we did by partnering working with Alpha Phi Alpha, where I'm a life member. In honor of Alpha Phi Alpha, McDonald's is going to do 7 $15,000 scholarships specifically for HBCU juniors and seniors. Anytime we talk about scholarship money, typically it's for somebody coming out of high school. I specifically said to McDonald's, no, let's do this for the people who are already in college, but to keep them in college. I remember when Julia Malvo was president of Bennett College, and she reached out to me. They were trying to raise like $30,000 to keep several of the young women in school who were graduating seniors. And it happened several times, and I've gotten other calls as well. So I said, hey, let's do this. And so partnering with the Thurgood Marshall Fund, you have this program. Again, any student who's a junior or a senior who is attending an HBCU is eligible for this program. Now, the deadline, listen clearly, the deadline is February 28th, okay? February 28th. Again, junior or senior. Now, that means that if you are going to be a junior in the fall, you can apply for the scholarship. If you're going to be a senior in the fall, you can apply for a scholarship. If you're a senior now and you ain't graduating and you're coming back next year, you can apply as well. So again, so what you do is you go to tmcf.org, tmcf.org. That's the Thurgood Marshall College Fund. They're handling everything. They're doing all this sort of stuff along those lines. And also, here's the other thing. And again, y'all know how I feel about this here. The recipients also is going to be able to engage with McDonald's executives about career opportunities in their field of study, things along those lines. And so, because I just want us to understand, a lot of people, and you bring the panel up right now, a lot of people simply don't have the resources to stay, and that's important. And so that's why we did it this way. And so, again, I know there are some alphas who probably like, man, come on, bro, why don't you just make it for the alphas? No, because here's the piece. If all of a sudden we discover that we get 800 or 1,000 applications, then we now know what the need is. And so now we can go back to McDonald's and say, okay, we did 7 this year. We did 7 this year. Hey, now let's do 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, because now you know what the need is. And so that was the rationale behind it. And so that's what we're doing there. I'm gonna go to Greg. Greg, I'm telling you, people don't understand it. And look, you get it when those students, they're there, they don't come back because they don't have the money to come back.
That's the truth, Roland. I mean, I can speak from personal experience. The tuition was a lot lower when I started Tennessee State in 1983, but I worked my way through college. And I busted my ass those first couple of years to get the kind of grades to begin to piece together scholarships. And then when I got involved in student government, I got a student leadership scholarship. With my academic scholarship, it was enough. So I left with no debt and went on to law school with no debt. I had full scholarship to law school. That means everything. It's almost 50-50. Public-private HBCUs in the United States, and 70% of the students who are at HBCUs are Pell Grant eligible. $15,000, and that price point, brother, is a stroke of genius. That's enough. At a private school like Spelman or Howard, that's enough to put a dent in it and get you close, particularly if you're a junior or senior. And at a public school, I mean, the average tuition and fees, we're talking about what? We're talking about maybe $14,000 for out of state and maybe around $7,000 for in-state tuition and fees. At a place like Norfolk State, it's going to cost you about $9,600 for a year tuition and fees. $15,000 when you're a junior or a senior. You know what that does finally? It reduces the 4, 5, 6-year graduation rate. You're absolutely right. Students aren't finishing, and it isn't because of their grades. It's because they don't have the money. And it's somebody who worked their way through school, working at fast food, Arby's and Wendy's and places like that. McDonald's can afford to do $700 or $7,000, and $15,000 could be the difference between a college degree and continuing to move and say, damn, if I just had a little bit more. That's the perfect price point, brother, in my opinion.
This is also why, Reese, I mean, over the years, I've talked about this a lot when we talk about scholarships. And most scholarships that they give typically are for high school students to go to 4-year institutions. I have been encouraging people to change the criteria for scholarships to also qualify for 2-year institutions, community colleges, because again, if someone, that's still college. And I get the focus on 4-year institutions, but it typically leaves out a lot of people who can't afford to go to a 4-year school, but they would love to be able to have a scholarship to go to a community college. And so again, it's just thinking about how we provide scholarships in a different way. So I appreciate McDonald's agreeing with that, because again, we could have easily said, hey, graduating high school senior, but that does nothing for that kid who's already in college but can't stay.
That's right.
Yeah, also we have to think about, the amount of support that Black students in particular have going to college. You have a lot of parents, middle class parents who might be able to get you through the first year, maybe even the second year. But by the time you hit 22, 23, that help has run out. Maybe people have had a kid or gotten pregnant or, had other things in life that might have set them a little bit off the path to where $15,000 could really make a huge transformative impact in their ability to continue their education. So this is something that really does meet a gap in the need by focusing on a population that typically you don't start to get eligibility at that point. You have to really get in. Maybe if you're a freshman, you get a 4-year scholarship or a 2-year scholarship, but not a lot of people are meeting that need. So I think it's a wonderful move that you push for and that McDonald's is providing.
And it doesn't mean, Faraji, that we don't encourage corporations that get a lot of our money as consumers not to support those folks who graduated from high school, but it's also thinking differently. And again, what I really hope, a bunch of our students apply. And again, that was one of the data points. That was one of the data points that I said to the alphas. I said, look, brothers, I know y'all may want this to only go to alphas. I said, but no, we need to have the data. If all of a sudden we have 700 students who apply for these 7 scholarships, now we're able to understand terms moving forward. Now all of a sudden, it may not just be, okay, sure, can McDonald's fund all 700? Sure, but what if we also now have that data to be able to say, all right, let's go to 9 other corporations and say, all right, each one of you do 10 each, or each one of you do 50 each, to be able to provide these sort of resources. I'm telling people all the time, if you don't have the data, all you're doing is just guessing.
No, you're absolutely right, Brother Roland. And I think that's the data, and that's what Dr. Carr and Reese are talking about. I mean, we all know it. I'm a product of community college. When I decided, it took me 5 years after I left high school to decide to go back to school. And then my first step was toward Baltimore City Community College. Then from there, I went to a 4-year university to complete that part of my education. But it's necessary. I'm always telling students, make sure that you don't, you exhaust every option. Community college is not something you should be ashamed of. Going to an HBCU is not something you should be ashamed of. But more importantly, look, these companies that you're working with, and I'm glad McDonald's is on board with this initiative, they should be on board, like a lot of other companies, because why? You're cultivating your next generation of innovators and thinkers. Every time you work at McDonald's, I always tell people this, you might say, oh, working at McDonald's is so terrible. But McDonald's has a very rigid management program They have a very rigid franchise ownership program. I mean, all of those things. And so when we're talking about investing, these companies should invest in Black students. They should invest into the future of Black students each and every day. And look, what we hope is that once we get this first batch of students involved in this, getting those scholarships, let's just work. We'll come right back to it and get another batch of students. This thing has to keep going. But it's a real blessing because why? You're behind it. And by you being behind it, you know that it's going to be an authentic program. It's not going to just, the money is not going to just sit somewhere. It's going to be given to somebody. And I just can't wait to see the students or hear about the students that are going to be the recipients of this. But this is more than any $15,000 shit, man. I wish I had that when I was in school. I'm telling you, I'll be all good. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, absolutely.
But, you know, I mean, every little bit helps. And you know what? Maybe this will start the process real quick. Maybe this will start the conversation that college is absolutely like terribly high.
Oh, it's crazy.
It becomes a crazy debt.
Yeah,
when you're paying $50,000 and $60,000 a year for college.
Yep. Absolutely, absolutely.
And can I say one more thing,
Yep.
Roland? I just want to say, you know, sometimes people hear the number and they say, well, 7. I don't have a chance of getting that. Apply anyway, because as Roland is saying, your applying might open the door for the next round of people. And so it's important that regardless of whatever calculation you're doing in your mind about your GPA or whatever the materials are that is going to be the rubric for deciding who gets it, still apply because it's important to open up the doors for more than just yourself. And you might get it.
Yep, absolutely.
Might get it.
Absolutely. So, as they say, the easiest way not to get any of the money is if you don't apply. Just like we say, hell, if you don't vote, guess what? You got no say-so in democracy. All right, I'm going to go to a break. We're going to play for you all our promo of our Glenn Turman interview. We're going to live stream the interview after we finish today's show. We debuted it last night, Rolling with Roland. Y'all, let me tell y'all something. It is an unbelievable interview with Glenn Turman. Look, he has been acting for more than 50 years. He is a legend. He is an icon. The stories are amazing. And one of the reasons that we're doing these one-on-one interviews with folks like Glenn Turman, and it's because, you know what? We don't want to just hear about them when we're doing an in memoriam. We want to hear from them while they're here, telling their story, listening to them in their own words. And so we kicked this thing off with Johnny Gill. Of course, we talked. The second one was Richard Lawson. We have Glenn Turman. Man, the interview's coming up next. Bill Duke, Jack A., Jeffrey Osborne, Michael Collier, Mario Van Peebles, Sally Richardson Whitfield, Dondre Whitfield, Maddie Rich. Man, we've got some unbelievable interviews that we have done. And trust me, Glenn Turman said some amazing stuff, and so we're going to show you the promo. We're going to stream it after that, and we come back from this break. It's 2 minutes. I'm going to show you the book cover. You're the first ones to see it. I have not put it on social media. I have not placed it anywhere. You're going to get the first look of this book cover, and I'll tell you exactly what the book is. The half the title is called White Fear, but you're going to see that next on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Aretha and I met as a result of a friend of mine named Ben Vereen. She was standing in the mirror in front of, the lights go around the star mirrors, and dressed in white and getting ready to perform, and she was standing up and she saw my reflection in the mirror, and she gave a little, and I gave a little,
They mutual admiration.
Oh, yeah, for sure, for sure. She expressed at that time that she wanted to, she had moved to California and she wanted to take lessons in acting. She wanted to do some acting. And I was, like I said, I teach.
Right.
I've been teaching for 12 years, And so I said, well, I teach acting. And if you want, come down to my classes. One evening, class was very disruptive. They were all at the window. Get back here, come on, we got a class, what are you doing? A limousine just pulled up, a lady got out in a fur coat. She walked into the class, and my first reaction was, you're late. And
You told the queen she was late.
she was.
You wouldn't let her know I'm the teacher.
I'm serious. And I think that's what she came to find out. Was I serious? And I was. And so we became serious.
Serious enough when you got married.
That's as serious as it gets.
All right, here we go, folks. Time for the big reveal. Y'all have heard me talk a lot over the years about white fear, what we are seeing in America right now. And it's not all white Americans. But what we have to understand that what is happening in America right now, this shifting of the demographics and this shifting of really this notion of what America is. Greg Hart talks about it all the time in terms of this settler. What's the phrase you use, Greg? Settler colony?
Yeah, settler colony turned to a settler state. That's right.
And folks don't quite understand, don't really sort of look at that. The reality is that America has been defined through a white prism. If you actually read history, white male prism, it was not supposed to be for Reese to be able to vote. Not because she's black, also because she's a woman. That was not. It was intended for folks who only owned land. That was how this was set up, okay? And so when you begin to look at what's happened in terms of these battles that we're having now, it's because we're seeing a redefining of what it means to be an American. And that's what's struggling with folks. And so when we talked about Colin Kaepernick, when he took a knee, okay, all the people like, man, that's not American. Actually, it is. The First Amendment is called the first for a reason. Guns were second, but the ability to be able to protest was first. So it wasn't him protesting. It was the fact that Colin Kaepernick simply did not grow up and completely suck in the notion that America is all about apple pie. It's all about a blonde, blue-eyed, buxom white woman as being the center of beauty in America. It wasn't about everything that is white is right, everything that black is bad. Is what it was about. And so what you're seeing now is this struggle because now black people and Latinos / Hispanics and Asians, Native Americans now get to actually have a say, and not just a say, now have power. And so this is not even directed at white conservatives. It's even directed at white liberals because many of them struggle with black folks having a seat at the table. Hollywood has a serious problem with that issue as well. And so all of this culminates, and this started, y'all, in 2009, there was a study that was done that asked the question, are you optimistic about the future of America for your children? And every group, blacks, Latinos, Asians, every group, a majority said yes. Only one group, less than a majority, said no, white Americans. In September 2016, the question was asked, are you optimistic about the future of America economically for the next 10 years? That was in 2016. Every group, blacks, Hispanics, Asians, majority says absolutely, even though black people, lowest wealth in the country, had the highest optimism.
Wow.
Latinos, second lowest wealth, highest optimism. White Americans, greatest wealth in America, lowest optimism. So you got to say, hold up, how y'all got more money than everybody else, but you got less optimism than everybody else? Because they will have to share. Their children will now have to compete. You can't, everything is just not, I'm born, I'm white, I get the job. No, you got to present some credentials now, because you know what? The person who's deciding may not look like your daddy. That is the basis of the book that I have been speaking on, that has been cultivating here for the last 13 years. And this, you get to see for the first time, is the cover of this book called White Fear. White Fear, how the browning of America is making white folks lose their minds. Now, if you look at the image, There were a lot of images that we chose. We purposely chose an image of the January 6th insurrection. And you see that the guy in the foreground, you see how he has his hands wide open?
Yep.
The reason I chose that photo because, one, he symbolizes the notion of all of this is ours.
Woo!
That's why we chose that. And so Leah Lakins is a writer. It's funny, we were on the call and, because Leah normally is done, she's ghostwritten many other books. And I was like, no, you ain't gotta be no ghostwriter with me. I ain't scared to put your name on a book. And so she and I have been working on this for the past 2.5 years. Ben Bella Books is an independent publisher out of Dallas. That's who we're publishing this book with. And so it is going to drop September of this year. We're going through the editing process right now. And it's not a book, the book is not just speaking to white Americans. It's speaking to everyone because many of us, Reese, don't fully comprehend and understand. And keep in mind, folks, the other reason why this photo is chosen, remember, Donald Trump specifically targeted Atlanta, Philadelphia, Detroit, and Milwaukee as the basis of his big lie that the election was rigged and stolen, and those are 4 black cities. Reese.
Well, first, let me say congratulations. And I think the cover is magnificent. I mean, what a brilliant encapsulation of really what white fear is. And not just white fear, but white lash, the backlash to what is inevitable that they will have to share. They're going to make it more difficult. And they're putting up a valiant fight to prevent that from happening, perhaps even this generation. But the demographics are not going to lie. It's not going to be something they can hold off forever. And so I think it's a really important piece of work. And I think we have to understand what we're up against, because I think a lot of people still feel like you can reason with them, you can appeal to some sort of shared humanity and shared sense of morals and character, and you can't. So the best thing that we can do is arm ourselves with the information. How do we maneuver around it? And I think that we're all mostly trained in that, because you have to do that to survive, and to really understand how we're going to come up with our game plan, how we're going to respond to this in a way that we can harness our power quicker, despite all of the roadblocks that they're going to put up. So congratulations again, Roland. I love it, love it, love it.
Faraji, first of all, Reese, I appreciate that, Faraji. We spend a lot of time on this, trying to walk people through this so they understand the dynamics here. And when we've been talking about these policy changes, making sure that they put on those young, white, right-wing conservatives on the Supreme Court. Do understand, Amy Coney Barrett is 49. Neil Gorsuch is 53. Kavanaugh is 55. Ginsburg was 87 when she died. Breyer is 82. So if you just say that, look, they serve 35 more years. Think about that. That means that Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Barrett will be there 35 more years.
Damn.
2057.
Damn.
See, and people have to understand that's why Mitch McConnell was hell-bent on keeping those seats and getting them in, because they understand when you control the Supreme Court, they are the final arbiter of our laws.
That's right. No, that's a big point. I'm so glad, Brother Roland, that you brought it up. First and foremost, of course, congratulations. I mean, I'm absolutely in love with the cover. I'm in love with with everything, like the title, the subtitle, and everything. It brings back to mind so many different books that I've come across, such as Death of the West. When you're talking about even White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo, there's a number of books out there, and I'm so happy that you're putting this out there as a black man to talk about this, because a lot of those books are really to white people, even though you said this is for everybody, I think it's absolutely important that we understand as Black people the dynamics and the thinking, and which is really important. A couple of questions for you, Brother Roland, because folks have been asking on the YouTube chat. First, will we be able to pre-order the book?
Yeah,
Is that going to be available?
the book will be pre-ordered. It's not available right now. They literally just sent me the email today of the cover, and they said I can go ahead and post it. And so, soon as we do pre-order, we want to make that possible. And again, look, my goal, and when I look at all these books that are on the New York Times bestseller list and everything, you know, I want us to go hard and hit 50,000 pre-orders. I think when the 1619 Project, I think when they debuted #1 on the New York Times bestseller list, I think it was like 87,000 books that were sold that first week. And so you know, with our fan base, you know, we want to go hard on Amazon's list, on New York Times bestsellers list, because let's be real clear, it's going to be a whole bunch of mainstream media folk not trying to put me on their shows. You know, Fox News ain't going to be calling.
No.
And we know CNN not going to be calling. And so...
or MSNBC.
Yeah, well, you know, but MSNBC, well, look, I got Ali Velshi will call me. I'll be on Tiffany Cross show next week. But again, it seems like the only time I appear on MSNBC is only on weekend shows. Ali Velshi, Tiffany Cross, Alex Witt. No other shows have invited me. I've never been on Joanne Reed's show. I've never been on Chris Hayes' show. I've never been on Rachel Maddow's show. Did Lawrence's show one time. And so I used to do the daytime shows, Morning Joe, Katie Tur, all those shows a lot. They don't call at all anymore. So I guess I'm only relegated to the weekend. But
let me ask you this though, Brother Roland, and this is another question that popped up. You know, I mean, because books of this caliber, of this nature, of this content is such hotly contested, because we're in a time of critical race theory and everything else. You know, what's your take on, you know, presenting this book into certain parts of the country, your home state like Texas? Are you having like a plan of action?
We going
boycott you and all that?
No. I ain't worried about that. I ain't worried about that. I ain't worried about that at all.
I mean, I had to ask the question.
No, I ain't worried about that at all. Trust me, I plan on going back to my alma mater, the conservative Texas A&M University, and discussing this book. I plan on being on college campuses. Trust me, the Roll-Mobile is going to be on the road. We're going to be hitting places. Remember, we're also going to be involved in going to places during the election. So we're going to be on the road anyway, hitting these states. We're going to be doing that. But absolutely. And the thing that's been crazy about this process, Greg, is that this thing has been, like, I've been amping to do it because every time something happened, White Fear kept showing. And even the publisher was like, okay, it's another event. And I'm like, and it was a trip because when back in literally 2018, 19, 20, I kept saying, y'all, the book is playing out before our very eyes. Now, mind you, it's a whole bunch of publishing houses that passed on the book because they didn't see it. Ben Bella out of Dallas, they saw it. They believed in it. And we've already signed a deal with Audible as well. And the thing that people don't understand is that, I mean, it was literally happening in real time. And I kept saying, see, every time something happened, I was like, see, they were like, damn, we got to get the book out. And it was sort of like a new thing. And so when January 6th hit, we had to completely recalibrate the book because after that happened. And so so everything that we've been talking about on this show, on TV One, when I was on Tom Joyner, all these things are playing out, and the book lays this thing out and establishes that continuum from going back to, of course, slavery, Civil War, and how at every point Black success was always be followed by white backlash. Greg?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And, you know, everything happens in divine order. I remember in 2010. Was it 2010 when you published the first with Third World Press?
Yes. 2010. The first President Barack Obama's road to the White House. Yep.
Yeah, and I think something that this book will share with the first is that it is being reported out by somebody who is in deep, immersive conversation, contact with, organizing with the people. And with all due respect to the New York Times bestseller list, we know that the books that are published by the Fox crew, Brian Kilmeade and them, that's propped up by billionaires and these You know, the same kind of people that'll be trying to put money in McMichael's account in Georgia, which is why I'm glad the Georgia prosecutor filed that addition to sentencing saying, so y'all can't profit off y'all stuff. So we know where those numbers come from. And in the case of the 1619 Project and my friend Ibram Kendi's books and Robin DiAngelo and all those, we know that a lot of that sales is driven by, you know, white guilt and white folks who may use the books as furniture, to quote Dr. Ben Yosef Ben Yaakov. In fact, during the Reckoning summer, so many black bookstores shipped books or had books. White people bought books at the black bookstores, and the books literally sat in the bookstores, meaning they never even picked up the books. So we know that those numbers are driven. But your numbers will be driven by black people who are going to read and black people you've been talking to. And of course, Leah Lakins is a proven entity. She has a track record and a sister, black woman. And in partnership, you creating this is organic, meaning, you know, we have a saying in the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilizations, building for eternity. This is a slow build, and we're all going to push it. You know, the thing I do with Karen Hunter on narrative and on the weekends in class, we're going to hold that book up to the screen, and black people are going to read, and other people are going to read. They're going to read the book, and then that slow build continues to build momentum. And then I'll just end with the cover and add my congratulations to Reese and to Faraji. That cover is perfect, and one of the things that strikes me is the distribution of the flags, because what you didn't do is show the Confederate flag. There's an American flag on the Capitol. The guy's got his hands open. On the right, there are flags. Looks like one of them is upside down in distress. On the left, there are flags, and dead center is one with the 13 colonies. Meaning what?
Come on.
They think they're having a revolution. They are taking their country back. And guess what? There are plenty of people in that building they're looking at who are in absolute agreement with them because it's the same damn flag. That is a brilliant cover, brother. So we're looking forward to Roll Out White Fear. These numbers are gonna escalate and explode because they are real numbers, not inflated, invented numbers.
And we certainly gonna break that thing down as well. And so again, I will let y'all know when it's time to pre-order the book, but I wanted y'all to see first that cover. I haven't put it on social media. I'll do it after the show. I'll go ahead and post it. But I wanted the Roland Martin Unfiltered Black Star Network family to see it first. And again, when I say how this thing is just continuing, it is continuing. I didn't read this story earlier, but the black DA in Atlanta, she wants a special grand jury to investigate former President Donald Trump's alleged election interference. According to the letter sent to the Chief Judge of Fulton County Superior Court, DA Fannie Willis says her office has information of possible criminal disruption in the state's 2020 election. She wants a grand jury to examine the evidence and compel witnesses to testify. Several witnesses have refused to cooperate without a subpoena. She opened her investigation about a year ago after a recording revealed Donald Trump demanded Georgia Secretary of State find enough votes to flip the state in his favor. And so I'm telling y'all, the thing is happening right before our very eyes. Okay, last before we go, I'll be remiss if we did not extend our condolences to Greg and his brother, Reverend Jeff, and the whole family on the passing of his 93-year-old mother, Catherine Hayes Carr. Of course, you know, they wouldn't be who they are without Mama Carr doing what she did, and she passed away. And so we wanted to certainly, this is the family photo that Jeff posted, the photo there with her and the whole crew. And so we wanted to definitely just extend our thoughts and prayers to you, Greg, and the family.
Appreciate you, Baba. Yeah, you know, 93 is a good run, and you're absolutely right. No her, no us. And she's with her husband now, back with her mother and father. She continues to rise. This little date we have that we mistake for all of life is just a little pass through from eternity to eternity. And so there'll be some tears, there'll be some sorrow, but that's pretty much residue, because every time I feel like I want to tear up, I see her and I hear her saying, come on now, I raised you better than that. I ain't going nowhere. In fact, she louder in my ear now than she was when she was transitioning. So it's a celebration, brother, and I just want to thank you for being who you are, and Reese and Faraji and everyone, Erica, everybody involved in Black Star and everybody out there. It's just a powerful reminder that we're only here for a second. And if we believe what we say we believe, then we know that two people came together and created every one of us. So when you hear my voice, you really hear my mother's voice. When you hear Roland's voice, you're really hearing his mother and father's voice. When you hear Reese, when you hear Faraji, you're hearing two other people. And now Reese got a little girl, Faraji got his children, me and Roland got our nieces and nephews, and you see a bunch of them there. That's how it continues. But all of our people, except that little handful of us in this little reality right here, all our people are in eternity. So we can call on them anytime now. So thank you, brother. I love you, man. Thank you so much for raising her name.
We certainly
Hey,
appreciate it.
Dr. Card, can I ask you a quick question? Did your mother see you on the show?
Man, you know what's so funny you asked, Faraji? My sister Gussie and brother-in-law Randy, who took point, she was in Houston, as you know, these last couple of years. She's in Nashville. And that picture was taken Thanksgiving. We were all at home in Nashville. My sister would play us for her. So she was on Thursday. So one of the last things she heard on this side before she took it back over was these conversations. So just know that my mom was listening to y'all every week. So I appreciate that. Yeah.
Well, I tell you, it's a whole bunch of black mamas and daddies out there who are doing the same. I get the emails when I'm traveling. I run into them. Mustafa hit me up and he like, hey man, matter of fact, we're gonna leave on this one because y'all gonna crack up when I tell you this here. Mustafa sent me, I got to give him a shout out. He said, where is it? He said, Miss Carrie at the Lowe's in Clinton, Maryland says hi, and she watches all the time, and this is what happened. He texted me, this is on Sunday. Mustafa said, just got moved to the front of the line at Lowe's because as the lady said, I love that Roland Martin show. So, so just so y'all know, and Rashad Robinson used to tell me, he was like, man, I don't know what it is about the black people at the grocery store. He said, but when I'm in Harlem shopping, I get stopped all the time. Folks like, man, ain't you that boy who on Roland show? And so y'all don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. Y'all, all these blue check marks on Twitter, they might be retweeting something that Don Lemon or Joy or Chris Cuomo used to say, Jake Tapper and all them other folks. But trust me, we know what the brothers and sisters are watching, and they make it clear when they walk up to me, y'all, and it's happened multiple times where they put cash in my hand. They say, look, I ain't trying to mail it in. They put cash in my hand. And I know some of y'all been emailing me. We're getting a P.O. box for y'all to be able to start sending your checks and money orders, because y'all keep telling me, look, I don't trust no Cash App, PayPal. I got you. So we'll have the P.O. box soon. That's why I haven't been given the address. And so folk like, I know some of y'all old school with money orders and checks. We appreciate that. And so again, we're gonna have that real soon. So we appreciate it. Again, condolences to the Carr family. And we certainly appreciate it. Reese, Faraji, Greg, thank you so very much. Folks, that's it for us. Sorry about the power outage. It broke the show up. But look, we still here. And again, why do we need your support? Y'all think I'm joking? I sent the emails when we were in that break to the engineers to get a backup source so we don't get knocked off line again like that. Your dollars make it possible for us to be able to do that. Yes, we're working on closing a deal with McDonald's to be a sponsor. You see the Verizon ads, but trust me, your resources, when you send that money to Cash App, when you send that money to PayPal, that's what's paying for producers and equipment, and audio is paying for video, is paying for a new video playback machine, a new computer, new monitors, all that sort of stuff. And so we appreciate it. Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And of course, you please tell everybody, download the Black Star Network app. We've crossed 25,000 downloads. We want to hit 50,000, 100,000, 250,000. And so please do so. We're on all platforms: Apple phone, Android TV, Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Xbox, and Samsung Smart TV as well. Shout Dr. Glenda Glover, president of Tennessee State University, also international president of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And so I'm rocking this shirt today. Don't forget, HBCU students, the deadline is February 28th. Go to tmcf.org and apply for one of those 7 $15,000 scholarships. McDonald's is partnering with me and Alpha Phi Alpha to provide to keep juniors and seniors in college. We'll remind y'all that every single day. Y'all take care. I will see y'all tomorrow. Holla!